Hello and welcome to Access Asia. I'm Delano D'Souza. Coming up, New Delhi forced to shop around for new trading partners as US tariffs of 50% go into effect for India. What options does Prime Minister Modi have, and is he giving Trump the cold shoulder? And yet another win for Korean pop culture. K-Pop Demon Hunters becomes the most streamed feature on Netflix to date. India has been jolted to look for new trading partners as US tariffs of 50% have taken effect. Half of that punishment is for New Delhi's continued purchases of Russian oil as Washington aims to pressure Moscow for the war in Ukraine. The latest trade escalation has Indian officials stunned, labeling the levies unfair, unjustified, and unreasonable. Brian Quinn reports.
A grim new reality for Indian manufacturers as their top export market puts the squeeze on their products. U.S. tariffs of 50% took effect Wednesday for a majority of Indian goods. Traders in Delhi fearful for their futures.
People are going to start ordering products elsewhere. Our jewelry sector and others have been very competitive, but after the 50% tax is imposed, the prices will increase and people will choose the cheaper options.
The Trump administration says half of that 50% figure is reciprocal, aimed at countering Indian tariffs and reducing the U.S.'s trade deficit there. The other half is punitive over the country's continued purchase of Russian oil amid the war in Ukraine. Delhi, though, had previously been encouraged to continue buying Russian oil as Western countries sanctioned it, part of a strategy to keep crude prices stable on international commodities markets. Indian officials now find themselves bewildered.
The same arguments which have been used to target India have not been applied to the largest oil importer, which is China, has not been applied to the largest LNG importer, which is the European Union.
Though there are some exemptions for pharmaceuticals and electronics, the tariffs are a heavy blow to what had been a blossoming strategic and commercial partnership between the two nations. India has been a key part of the U.S.'s strategy to counter its top rival, China, with growing cooperation on tech and defense. American companies like Apple encouraged to shift their production hubs to India from China. Washington and Delhi have been through 5 rounds of trade talks with no deal yet. The U.S. wants more access to Indian markets for American agricultural and dairy products. Delhi, though, has resisted, as agriculture is a key domestic sector, accounting for more than 40% of the country's jobs.
We can now bring in Mohan Kumar, former Indian ambassador to France. Mr. Ambassador, thank you for joining us on the program. Over the past few years, we have seen India inch closer to the United States and the West in general. New Delhi was viewed as a democratic alternative to China. Has this latest tariff episode forced India to rethink the direction it was heading in?
I'm not sure it makes India rethink, but we get the sense sitting in Delhi that US has probably changed its mind in just looking at India as a counterweight to China. It's my sense that at some point, President Trump may want to do a grand bargain with China. So whatever the reason, something has shifted in terms of their strategic priorities. It could be one of the 3 reasons. Frankly, one could be a personal pique that President Trump has vis-a-vis India. The second could be buying of Russian oil. And the third would be red lines that India had drawn with regard to the trade agreement. Of these 3, I would say the last mentioned is the least important, because my sense is we were very, very close to a trade agreement. I think it was even initialed at the officials level, but of course vetoed by President Trump. So we will have to wait and see what happens now. But my sense is that for now, India's strategy is no confrontation, but no capitulation, and yes to conversation. So we continue to talk. And that is the only good news I can report from India.
The German daily Frankfurter Allgemeine is reporting that Prime Minister Modi has dodged 4 Trump phone calls. Is New Delhi giving Trump the cold shoulder?
It's hard to verify that, frankly, Delano. I have no way of knowing whether those calls really came or not. But it is a fact that the leaders have not had a conversation since they talked on the phone on June 17th. That was the last time they talked. Now, from an Indian perspective, it's much better for us to have the senior officials prepare the ground before the two leaders meet and seal the deal. It is not our style to have the leaders meet without the issues getting resolved on the ground level. But I understand that the leadership style in the United States is very different. There is only one man who calls the shots,
It
and
seems so.
therefore it is he who matters in their system. But our system works differently, and that may be a bit of an issue.
Mr. Ambassador, Donald Trump has named a close aide of his, Sergio Gore, as the new ambassador to India and special envoy for South Asia. He still needs to be confirmed, of course. How is New Delhi viewing this appointment? Because I'm sure if you speak to your former friends in Paris, they will tell you that having someone that's very close to Donald Trump is not necessarily a good thing. I mean, here he has Jared Kushner's father as ambassador here in Paris.
Well, the one way of looking at it, Delano, is that I would have been horrified if it was an obscure career diplomat who was chosen for Delhi. And then that would be an indication of lack of importance. The US system is a little different, and they send their political appointees to places which they consider important. And so, from one perspective, to get somebody in Delhi who has President Trump's ear is important. And I think from that perspective, we would welcome an appointment like that. But on the other hand, you are right. He has been made envoy for South Asia and Central Asia. And we worry about that because that is the first time that an ambassador to Delhi has been given such an enlarged role.
During the course of Russia's invasion, the West has tried and failed to turn India away from Moscow. But to an extent, it has sort of worked because we've seen India less reliant on Russia when it comes to weaponry. Over the years, India's been buying arms from France, Israel, what have you. Could we see now a further warming of relations with Moscow and potentially even China?
It's easy to interpret that as a result of the Trumpian tariffs and as a result of the difficulties that we have with the United States at that point. But I would issue a word of caution before we start thinking that India will automatically embrace China or Russia. With China, we have very serious issues still at the border. Most people in the West don't understand that 50,000 soldiers on either side of the border are in an eyeball-to-eyeball confrontation. How do you try and improve ties when you have so many soldiers facing each other? With regard to Russia, we think that the limits of the relationship are clear. We obviously have to depend on them for legacy and arms relationship that I think both countries entered into as a result of Western sanctions and the rest of it. But I would say it's only countries like France, Japan, Australia, they are the ones who will come to the fore in the medium to long term as a result of the Trumpian action. Because India will be more and more convinced now that its strategy of multi-alignment is the best strategy going forward.
Ms. Ambassador, can the relationship with America be repaired, or will it have to take Donald Trump taking credit for bringing the conflict with Pakistan, which we saw a couple of months ago, to an end? Because as you know, New Delhi has clarified that he was not the reason the two countries decided to call that ceasefire, yet time and time again, I think pretty much every single day, he takes credit for stopping that conflict.
So my assessment and prognosis of India-US relationship is that at some point we will tackle these issues of trade and tariffs and move on. I think what I worry about is the break in trust, if you like. The last 25 years, people on both sides, India and the US, have worked very, very hard to restore a relationship in which trust plays an important part. And we've done so many things together. That trust, I think, will take longer to rebuild.
Mr. Ambassador, thank you for joining us on the program today. And finally, to a K-pop animation that's taken the world by storm and even has the backing of South Korea's president. K-pop Demon Hunters is Netflix's most streamed feature ever. It's also topped the box office in the United States with a short theatrical release, and the movie songs have gone viral, making it yet another win for Korean pop culture. Olivia Salazar-Winspear reports.
The world will know you as pop stars. But you will be much more than that.
3 charismatic singers, dancers, and pop idols who also slay demons to protect their fans.
They're stealing the souls of our fans?
That's the premise of K-Pop Demon Hunters, an animated musical which has broken streaming records. It's not just the film of the summer, it's the most watched film in Netflix history. With more than 230 million views on the streaming platform, it's outperformed expectations and bucked the trend for remakes with its original storyline and characters. A winning formula for its growing number of fans. For many, it's the soundtrack that sets it apart. Real K-pop stars provide the vocals and have seen those songs top the charts.
Being able to perform in really big stadiums overseas means more people know us and our popularity has grown. It is amazing to see audiences even learning Korean.
After the success of series like Squid Game and the global reach of K-pop music, South Korea's president emphasized that supporting his nation's so-called cultural powerhouse is a priority for him going forward.
Us South Koreans protest through music and dance. For us, it feels completely natural. But for outsiders, it can look unusual, like, why are they dancing with nightsticks instead of starting a riot? It's a beautiful approach, and in the end, that's how we win.
The film has had an extra boost from a run of sing-along screenings, which sold out movie theatres in the US, Canada, the UK and Australia, making it a blockbuster at the cinema as well as on the small screen, and making K-pop stars of hundreds of thousands of fans, if only for a moment.
That's it for this edition of Access Asia. From all of us on the team, thank you very much for watching.